My name is Ava Callahan, and 3 months ago, I heard the people who raised me say, "She's not our real daughter," while I was unconscious, in a hospital bed, fighting for my life. Before I tell you the rest, drop a comment below and tell me where you're watching from, and don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe. Trust me, you'll want to hear how this unfolds. I used to think identity was simple name, birth date, job title, maybe a childhood nickname thrown in. Mine was Ava, 28 years old, PhD, in biomedical sciences, cancer research specialist. I worked 14-hour days, authored journal articles most people couldn't pronounce, and on paper I was winning. I was also the only child of Richard and Valerie Callahan, or so I believed. They were high achievers too. My dad ran a boutique investment firm with a platinum clientele. My mom sold pharmaceuticals and could memorize the chemical breakdown of anything she was pitching. They were polished, sharp, exacting. Our house in Brookmere, one of those upper-crust Boston suburbs with stone walls and seasonal wreaths, looked like a Pottery Barn catalog. People used to say we were the perfect family, and I believed them. But perfect comes with pressure and rules. Growing up, I wasn't just Ava, I was the future of the Callahan legacy. I skipped grades, won science fairs, interned at Harvard's oncology lab at 17. They'd clap the loudest at awards ceremonies, but back home, it was conditional. A B+ meant we're disappointed. Art school was not a serious option. I stopped painting after high school. I told myself I didn't have time, but really, I didn't have permission. Still, I loved them. Or maybe I loved being loved by them when I was good enough. There were sacrifices I never even thought to label as sacrifices. College choices made to keep me close. Breakups with people who didn't fit the vision. I skipped my best friend's wedding to present at a medical symposium my dad called career-defining. I missed a lot in the name of the plan. And somewhere along the way, I mistook performance for belonging. Then things shifted. It was subtle at first. My texts started getting one-word replies. Voicemails unreturned. "Oh, sorry, busy quarter," my dad would say, and I'd pretend that made sense. Holidays became briefer. Calls ended sooner. And when I finally got my inheritance at 25, a $4.5 million trust from my maternal grandmother, they suddenly showed interest again. My dad wanted to manage it. My mom brought urgent business proposals. When I declined, the space between us stretched again. But they were still my parents, so I gave them the benefit of the doubt, over and over. Then came the rain-slicked night on Route 84. I'd just finished presenting my research in New York, early-stage results in targeted cancer therapies, and was driving back to Boston. I remember headlights, wet pavement, my GPS saying I was 57 minutes from home. Then, nothing. I woke up days later, drowning in pain, my body a roadmap of fractures. I had tubes in my throat, voices blurred, and then I heard them. My parents, talking to a doctor, not realizing I could hear. "We need to discuss this privately. She's not our real daughter. We have no legal responsibility. She has a substantial estate use that for the surgery." I tried to move, scream, something, but my body wouldn't respond. I could only listen. "Do we need to be concerned about the inheritance? If she doesn't make it, talk to Lawrence? Find out our options." I don't know what hurt more, the physical pain or the emotional snap of a reality I couldn't yet fully process. They left. They walked out of that hospital room, not knowing if I'd survive and already planning what to do with my money if I didn't. That night, as a nurse named Grace held my hand and authorized the surgery in their place, my identity shattered. Ava Callahan, the brilliant daughter, the golden girl, the family pride, died right there on that hospital bed. What survived was a question, one that wouldn't let go. If I wasn't their daughter, then who was I? And that's when the unraveling truly began. After the surgery, everything was pain. Physical pain, emotional confusion, the kind of bruising that doesn't show on a scan. Grace, the charge nurse, became my anchor. She checked on me constantly, brought extra Jell-O, fluffed my pillows with maternal precision. But the question lingered like smoke in my lungs. If they weren't my real parents, who the hell was I? Madison, my best friend since MIT, was the one who saved me. She was listed as my emergency contact and showed up within an hour. She signed the consent forms called "My Doctor Stayed Overnight." I remember waking to see her in the corner chair blanket, pulled up, coffee in hand, eyes swollen from crying, but never looking away. "They're not coming back," she said the third day. I've called, left messages, texted both of them. Nothing. I blinked through tears. My voice was barely there. They said, "I'm not theirs." Madison gripped my hand. "I don't care what they said. You're mine." Still part of me hoped. Delusion doesn't die easily. I thought maybe I'd misunderstood. Maybe they panicked. Maybe. But then Grace walked in with a clipboard. She had this look, tight-lipped eyes, soft with pity. "The hospital needs to list a responsible party," she said gently. They formally declined, signed papers and everything. There it was, ink on paper. They had officially disowned me while I was unconscious. I spent the next week in a haze of painkillers and crushing realizations. Madison stayed with me every day, brought me decent coffee, and combed my hair when I couldn't lift my arms. But even with her there, the grief was bottomless. Not the grief of death, the grief of being discarded. I had so many questions. I remembered the odd baby photo gap. My green eyes and auburn hair, so unlike either of them. Their weird reaction when I once asked about doing one of those ancestry DNA kits. The birth certificate that looked too new. So when I was moved out of ICU into a standard room, I asked Madison for my laptop. "You should be resting," she warned. "I can't lie here doing nothing," I said. "I need answers." That night, I started digging. I searched birth records in Massachusetts. My certificate said I'd been born at Brookmere General to Richard and Valerie Callahan. But the font was off newer than others from the same year. The paper looked too crisp. Then I started looking up missing child cases, cross-referencing dates, towns, descriptions, and that's when I found her. Emma Hale, abducted from her crib in Providence, Rhode Island. Auburn hair, green eyes, age 3 months. Last seen June 15, 1995. The photo hit me like a punch, not because it looked like me, but because it was me. I kept scrolling, article after article. Her parents, Thomas and Elena Hale, had never stopped searching. They'd founded a nonprofit, held annual candlelight vigils, marked every birthday with a balloon release and a letter they said they'd give her if she was ever found. And I was here, alive, with a fake name and a shattered spine. I told Madison everything. We called a private investigator, Derek Wilson, retired cop turned PI. He listened to me like I was telling him a ghost story. "We need DNA," he said. "First to prove you're not related to the Callahans, then to match you with the Hales." "I still have a key to their house," I told him. "They usually leave Thursday nights for their wine club." 2 days later, Madison and Derek went in. Grabbed toothbrushes, a hairbrush, a coffee mug. He sent it to a lab. While we waited, I started working with an attorney, Samuel Lynn. He specialized in identity fraud and inheritance law. "If you're Emma Hale," he told me, "this is going to become a very big case. Not just civil, criminal." A week later, Derek came back with results. "You're not biologically related to the Callahans," he said. "And the match to the Hales is over 99.9%. You're their daughter Ava. You're Emma Hale." I couldn't speak. I just sat there staring at the page with numbers and charts and words that confirmed it. My life was a lie. When I finally looked up, I whispered, "They left me to die." And I wasn't even theirs. Samuel acted fast. Froze my accounts. Reset passwords. Drafted a new power of attorney, giving Madison legal authority. Good thing, too, the Callahans had already filed a court petition claiming I was mentally incompetent and requesting conservatorship of my estate. "They're saying the accident caused brain trauma," Samuel explained. "They want control of your money." "Are you serious?" Madison barked. She's been quoting oncology papers in her sleep. It got worse. They'd siphoned over $87,000 from my secondary checking accounts over the past 3 years, in small enough amounts to go unnoticed. Gambling debt, failed ventures, wire transfers to places I'd never been. "They're running out of time and options," Derek told us. "They're planning to flee. Indonesia. No extradition treaty." I sat back in my hospital bed and said one thing: let's trap them. Samuel crafted a plan. We created a fake vulnerability, a dummy investment account with loose security protocols, made it look like they could access the funds with documents and a deposit box key. We seeded a few hints through family contacts. Then we waited. 3 days later, Madison's phone lit up. It was Valerie. "Madison, dear. We've been so worried about Ava. The hospital said she was discharged. Is she with you?" Madison kept her voice even. She's here, recovering. Want to visit tomorrow? Oh yes, around 2 if that works. The moment they hung up, we went into gear. Derek wired up Madison's living room with recording equipment. Samuel prepped bank security. And I made myself look fragile. Hospital robe, blanket, pale. I even slurred my words. They walked in like nothing had happened. Brought flowers. Valerie kissed my forehead, like she hadn't tried to kill me through negligence. Darling, we're just so relieved, she cooed. I'm still worried, I whispered. About the money, the surgery bills, the investments. Richard leaned in. We'll take care of all of it. I think the safe deposit box has the key documents, I said. Box 247, First National Bank. Richard practically glowed. He pocketed the key, mumbled something about legal guardianship, and said they'd check the box first thing. They left smiling. Inside that safe deposit box was one thing, a letter. A letter that started with, "By the time you read this, you'll realize your plan has failed." The bank called an hour later. The Callahans were in custody. They had passports, one-way tickets, forged signatures, copies of my social security card. I closed my eyes and exhaled for the first time in weeks. The masks were off, the truth was out, and the Callahans, or whatever their real names were finally where they belonged. Not beside me, not above me, not in control, but behind bars. The day after their arrest, I should have felt closure. But instead, it felt like my skin didn't fit right. The world had snapped in half, everything before the crash, and everything after. Madison tried to keep me grounded. She made eggs and toast, bought new pajamas, even set up a movie night. But I couldn't relax. I couldn't not dig. There was more under the surface. I could feel it like a splinter you haven't pulled out yet. That night, while scrolling through Facebook, I did something I hadn't done in months. I looked up Valerie's profile. It was still public. Photos, albums, smiling faces, posts about charity luncheons and fundraisers. But it was one album that stopped me cold. Callahan Family Retreat, Cape Cod 2023. There she was, smiling beside Richard on the beach, arms around their real niece and nephew. A long table covered in lobsters. Fireworks, all dated for the same weekend. I had invited them to a conference where I was receiving an award I'd told them meant the world to me. They told me they had a conflict. There were more albums. Thanksgiving 2022. Christmas brunch. Valerie's birthday garden party. I hadn't been invited to a single one. The captions stung like lemon in a paper cut. Grateful for family? Wouldn't be the same without all of us together. Love these people to pieces. I wasn't in any of them. I dropped my phone. My hands shook. Madison rushed in from the kitchen. What happened? I just showed her. Didn't say a word. She sat beside me in silence. They didn't just lie to you, she said. They erased you. It wasn't just absence, it was deliberate exclusion. A whole second life without me. Then something strange happened. A notification popped up, a text from Valerie. Meant for someone else. Valerie. She'll be gone soon enough. We've covered our bases. Keep everything in the family-only thread. Wait, I said, rereading. What thread? Madison and I both froze. Then she grabbed my laptop. We tried searching Valerie's email. Nothing obvious. But Madison genius that she is thought to try old shared Google Docs. And that's when we found it. Callahan family. Private. A hidden group thread shared among 10 people. Cousins, siblings, in-laws. People I thought were extended family. We weren't supposed to find it. But someone forgot to revoke access from an old email Valerie used to set up my internship years ago. The messages were like acid on open wounds. Ava's too intense. She always hijacks everything with her research. Do we have to include her in the birthday plan? She doesn't get boundaries. She'll make it all about her. This is the one weekend that should just be about us. No pressure, no speeches, no monologues. That last one hurt the most. Because I had given speeches, toasts, thoughtful ones, personal, honest. I thought they mattered. Scrolling through the messages, I saw how deeply they misunderstood me, or maybe didn't want to understand me. To them, I wasn't Ava. I was a force, a disruptor, a guilt trip in human form. My eyes burned. I slammed the laptop shut. Later that night, I asked Madison to call my lawyer. I need to talk to them, I said. In person. All of them. He set it up through official channels. The Callahans had been moved to a detention center that allowed supervised visits for legal mediation. Samuel pulled strings for a private room. I didn't want to scream. I didn't want drama. I wanted truth. When I rolled in, still weak, still healing, they looked shocked. Richard's face was blank, but Valerie's eyes flickered with something that might have been regret or calculation. I know everything I said. The DNA, the money, the escape plan, the group thread, everything. Valerie crumbled first. I never meant for it to get this far, she said, voice cracking. You were always so much. So smart, so intense. Everything was about you, and I just wanted peace. So you lied for 28 years, I asked. You let me believe I was your daughter, and then tried to profit from my death. Richard spoke next. Cold, crisp. We didn't kill you. You left me to die, I snapped. That's worse. He didn't flinch. You were never supposed to be permanent. Margaret wanted a baby. We were just the middlemen. But then she had a stroke. You were left with us. And it got complicated. Complicated? My voice cracked. You mean profitable? Valerie wiped her eyes. You were brilliant. You are brilliant. And you never needed us the way we needed you. You were already outgrowing us by high school. I was 12. They had no response. I asked one more thing before I left. Did you ever love me? Valerie said nothing. Richard answered, We gave you every advantage. That's worth something. I stared at him numb. Love is not a transaction, I said. And parenting is not a return on investment. I stood wobbling but upright. I hope prison teaches you what accountability feels like. I walked out without looking back. That night, Madison sat on the couch, cradling a hot mug of tea, while I stared blankly at the TV. Then her phone lit up. It was a voice message from Jenny, my cousin. Or who I thought was. She lived in Oregon, rarely visited, never replied to group texts. Madison pressed play. Ava, I just found out what happened. I had no idea about the group thread. I always admired you. I mean, you were the reason I went into STEM. I didn't say anything at the time, but I saw how they talked over you at reunions, how they left you out of plans. I thought you knew. I thought you were above it. I'm so sorry. You didn't deserve any of it. I started crying before the message even ended, because that's what made it so unbearable. It wasn't all of them. Just enough of them. Just the ones who mattered most. The ones who should have known better. Madison came closer. You okay? No, I said, sobbing, but I will be. I wasn't ready to forgive, not yet, but I was ready to fight. The night before the confrontation, I couldn't sleep. Madison had booked us a suite in a quiet hotel just outside Boston, far enough from the Callahan's house that I wouldn't accidentally see any of them. I sat on the edge of the bed with my laptop open, a legal pad covered in bullet points, and my fingers ice cold. I wasn't preparing for revenge. I was preparing for clarity. The betrayal wasn't just personal. It was structural, generational. I needed them to understand exactly what they'd broken and what it would take to even begin rebuilding. At 2 a.m., I drew a family tree. Not biological. Emotional. I mapped the actual support system I'd had over the years, who showed up, who listened, who didn't. It was brutal. Whole branches were empty. Then, I drafted what I called the contract for change. 3 pages, clear boundaries, expectations, required behaviors. If they wanted any relationship moving forward, this was the cost of re-entry. The next morning, I put on the necklace. Madison gave me a tiny gold lightning bolt and drove to the house I grew up in. I rang the doorbell like a guest. Inside, the tension was visible. Valerie sat stiffly on the edge of the couch. Richard stood with arms crossed. A few extended family members were there too, cousins and uncle, even Jenny, the one who'd sent that late-night voice message. I took a deep breath and wheeled forward into the center of the living room. Ground rules, I said. You don't speak over me. No deflecting, no dismissing. Full honesty, or I leave. No one argued. I started with something simple. Draw your version of the family. Who you talk to. Who you go to when something big happens. Reluctantly, they did. What followed was a painful collage of truth. Most people drew themselves disconnected from me. Not out of hate, they said, but intimidation. You always had the answers, one cousin said. It made the rest of us feel small. I nodded. Noted it. What you call small, I called survival. I was taught that being useful was the only way to be seen. Then came the appreciation cards. People had to write one specific thing they valued about me. Some were generic, driven, smart, but a few landed. You once stayed up all night helping me rewrite my grant application, even though you had your own deadline. You remembered I hated olives and always picked them off my pizza without saying anything. Those stuck with me. Then I passed out a new card frustration you've never said aloud. One by one, they filled them out. One by one, I read them. You take over everything. You act like you're the only one who's competent. You always make it about logic, never feelings. I nodded again, this time slower, heavier. Valerie was the last to speak. She folded her paper twice before saying, I was scared of you. That caught me off guard. I couldn't parent you, she continued. You were faster, smarter. I felt useless. So I tried to control what I could, your image, your money. And when I couldn't control that anymore, you cut me out, I said. She nodded. I turned to Richard. Anything. He hesitated. Then, almost mechanically, I thought you were a threat. Not physically, but existentially. You challenged everything. Too many questions. Too many deviations. You scared me. There it was. Then I said the thing I'd rehearsed 100 times in that hotel room. I don't want apologies. I want accountability. I want changed behavior. I want to stop being the family's emotional accountant. I pulled out the contract. This is what it takes to have a relationship with me. Respect. Transparency. No more group chats I'm not in. No decisions about me made without me. No asking for money. And full acknowledgement, verbal and written, of the truth I am Emma Hale. I was stolen, raised in a lie, and nearly discarded for profit. The silence that followed was thick. Jenny, bless her, broke it. She reached into her purse and pulled out a small sketch. A drawing of an apple tree with a single branch growing sideways. I always thought you were that branch, she said softly. Strong but separate. Turns out you were the root. That's when I started crying. For the girl who tried so hard to be perfect. For the woman who finally let herself be enough. Valerie reached for my hand. I didn't pull away, but I didn't squeeze back. Not yet. Later that afternoon, we shared a meal. The air was thinner. A little warmer, still fragile, but real. When I left, I didn't feel triumphant. I felt whole. The weeks after the confrontation were quiet, not in a bad way, but in a way that felt like breathing after holding your breath for too long. For the first time in maybe ever, I wasn't performing. I wasn't fixing. I wasn't trying to earn a seat at anyone's table. I was simply existing. And somehow that was enough. I moved back into my condo in Cambridge with Madison's help. She filled the fridge-stacked pillows just right and left sticky notes that said things like, "You're not too much." They were never enough. That's Madison. Ferociously loyal and emotionally clairvoyant. I started therapy, real therapy. Not just optimize your habits therapy, but the messy kind. Trauma-informed, slow. Some days I said nothing. Other days I sobbed for the little girl who just wanted to be seen beyond her GPA. The therapist helped me see that I hadn't just been betrayed. I'd been trained to link my worth to usefulness, to associate love with performance, to interpret silence as shame. Untraining that is hard. But I was trying. One day, Madison sat next to me on the couch, holding 2 mugs of tea. You know you steamroll people, right? She said gently. I looked up, startled. Not on purpose, she added quickly. But sometimes you walk into a room with all the answers. And not everyone wants answers. It stung. But she wasn't wrong. Yeah, I said. I think it was the only way I knew how to belong. She nudged me with her shoulder. You belong without solving anything. That stuck. A few days later, Valerie called. I didn't pick up, but she left a voicemail. I know it doesn't fix anything, she said, but I want to try. If you're open to it, maybe we could talk. I'd like to listen this time. We met in a park, neutral ground. She brought a sketchbook. I didn't know she drew. We sat in the sun, talking about nothing for a while. Then she said, I think I used your excellence to hide my fear of being irrelevant. I didn't respond right away, but something cracked open inside me. I never needed you to be perfect, I told her. Just honest. She nodded. We started walking every Sunday. No big breakthroughs, just walking. Learning how to be in each other's space without the script. One weekend, I met up with Jenny, the cousin who'd drawn the apple tree. We got coffee and talked about growing up. She admitted that even as a kid, she saw how I was treated differently. Everyone acted like you were a walking investment portfolio, she said. I hated it. Me too, I whispered. We made a pact: no more secrets. No more family-only group chats. No more pretending things didn't hurt just because we're Callahans. Then came the hard part. Meeting the Hales. Thomas and Elena Hale, my biological parents. They were patient, gentle, never pushed. When I finally said I was ready, they drove 5 hours to meet me in a small cafe near the hospital where I'd been born, or rather taken from. I recognized them instantly. Elena had my eyes. Thomas had my crooked smile. We sat in silence for a moment. Then Elena reached into her purse and pulled out a stack of letters, one for every birthday. I wrote you every year, she said, in case you ever came back. I touched the top envelope like it might disappear. My throat tightened. I'm sorry I didn't come back sooner, I whispered. Thomas shook his head. You survived, that's what matters. Over the next few months, we started building something. It wasn't easy. I didn't slide into their lives like a missing puzzle piece. I was jagged, wounded. But they never tried to smooth me over. They just made room. My siblings, yes, I had siblings, sent me voice notes and memes and drawings. Lily, the youngest, was an art teacher. She asked to see my old paintings. I hadn't touched a brush in over a decade, but I dug out my sketchbook and sent her a picture of a messy, half-finished abstract. It's beautiful, she texted back. It's honest. That night, I painted for 4 hours. For the first time since I was 17. Not for praise, not for performance, just because I wanted to. Back in Cambridge, my work took on new meaning. I pivoted from oncology research to trauma-focused biotech, exploring how long-term stress affects cell regeneration. Suddenly, my own body was a case study. Every scar, a data point. I launched a nonprofit in collaboration with the Hales the Emma Foundation. It supports adult survivors of child abduction and identity fraud. We partner with hospitals, lawyers, and mental health professionals. We help people rewrite their stories. At one of our first meetings, Samuel, my lawyer, said, "You've turned pain into blueprint. Not many people can do that." Maybe. But I also had help. Derek, the PI, now sits on our advisory board. Grace, the nurse who held my hand the night the Callahans left, runs a training program for healthcare professionals on identifying family manipulation in crisis situations. I was building a new family, one that chose me, not for what I could give, but for who I was. At our foundation's launch, someone asked me what I wanted people to take away from my story. I said that you can survive betrayal. You can outgrow the box you were shoved into. You can reclaim your name, your past, your future, and you don't have to do it alone. And for the first time, I believed it. The first time I walked into the new celebration, the one they rescheduled, the one I was actually invited to, it felt like stepping into an alternate version of the past. Same rented garden, same string lights, same white tablecloths. But the energy was different. This time, there was no tightrope beneath my feet. No need to calculate my words or hold my breath for approval. This time, I came as me. Lily, my sister, was the first to spot me. She ran over, nearly knocking over a pitcher of lemonade, and hugged me like we'd grown up together. "You came," she said teary-eyed. "You actually came." I smiled. "I told you I don't miss the important stuff anymore." I handed her a small gift, a watercolor set. Handpicked. No advice included, just love. She opened it slowly, holding the brush like it was sacred. "Thank you," she whispered. "It's perfect." Inside the tent, Thomas and Elena were talking with a few guests. When I approached, they stopped mid-sentence and lit up like Christmas trees. "You made it," Elena said, pulling me into a hug. "Are you okay?" "I'm good," I said, and I meant it, really. We sat together during the meal. Someone gave a toast, and for the first time in a long time, I wasn't the one expected to stand up and say something brilliant. I just listened, ate my salad, let the moment pass without needing to shape it. Halfway through the night, Valerie arrived. I didn't expect her to, but she did. She stood at the edge of the crowd, looking smaller than I remembered, holding a potted orchid like a shield. She made eye contact with me, waited. I walked over, slowly, intentionally. "I didn't come to cause a scene," she said softly. "I just wanted to say thank you." "For what?" "For the chance to try again," she said. "And for holding me accountable. I'm still learning how to love without control." I nodded. "So am I." Then, unexpectedly, she handed me the orchid. "You kept trying to bloom where you weren't planted," she said. "Maybe now you don't have to?" We didn't hug, but we didn't walk away angry either. That felt like progress. Later, during dessert, Thomas stood up with a champagne glass. I want to propose a toast, he said. To Emma. To Ava. To the daughter who survived more than we can comprehend and still found her way back. You're not just brave. You're the reason we're all sitting here tonight. People clinked glasses. I blinked back tears. But what really hit me was what happened next. Richard, my former father, who'd refused to attend the event, had sent a letter. Madison handed it to me. I wasn't going to read it, but I did. It was short. You were never what we expected, but you were more than we deserved. I still don't know how to love without strings. I'm sorry I tied you up in mine. I folded the letter and placed it back in the envelope. I didn't forgive him, but I accepted the truth. After the music died down, I found Lily sitting on the porch swing. She patted the space beside her. We swayed back and forth in silence, watching the moon rise. You seem lighter, she said. I feel it, I replied. Do you think it'll last? Probably not always, I admitted. Old patterns are stubborn. She nodded. But you're different now. I think I just stopped asking the wrong people to love me the right way. We stayed like that, quiet and close, the porch creaking beneath us, the air full of things unspoken, but understood. Before we left, someone handed out candles, a symbolic gesture, a way to honor what was and light the path toward what could be. As I lit mine, I looked around. These people weren't perfect. Neither was I. But we had something honest now, messy, unfiltered, real, and that was enough. If you've ever felt like your worth was conditional, like love had to be earned, like family was a stage and you were always playing the wrong part, this story is for you. Drop a comment and tell me if you've ever had to rewrite your identity. What helped you start again? What did you leave behind? If this story resonated, hit like, subscribe, and share it with someone who needs to know that the past doesn't define the future. You are not too much. You are not too late. You are just becoming. Thank you for listening. And wherever you are, keep going. The truth always finds its way home.